And a reminder, it is the final week in our Summer of Tire Rack Sweepstakes. We've had 2 winners so far that have taken home a set of 4 brand new tires. Anthony K. from Huntingburg, Indiana, and Nelson L. from Roswell, Georgia are the first 2 winners. And one last winner is still up for grabs. Hello, our 3rd winner, that could be you, will be picked on Sunday to win a set of 4 tires plus installation, taxes, and fees, valued at up to $1,500. Enter daily at foxsportsradio.com. Every single day, you get a fresh new entry and an additional chance to win. And it's free to register. To enter and get rules during the final week of the sweepstakes, visit foxsportsradio.com. It's sponsored by tirerack.com, the way that tire buying should be. The biggest story in sport is going to be taking place in a boardroom somewhere. It's the Hot Stove League free agency. Shohei Ohtani. Cha-ching, cha-ching, cha-ching. There have been stories estimating Ohtani's going to get $600 million, $700 million, $800 million, $1 billion. Ohtani expected to break the glass ceiling for free agent bonanzas in baseball, but he ended up in the sports fodder for all the wrong reasons on Wednesday. If you didn't see this, maybe not. Now, Ohtani, the Angels playing a doubleheader because their grounds crew couldn't get the field ready for the game on Monday, even though it didn't rain on Monday. Anyway, Shohei Ohtani hit a home run in the first inning. He then left the first game of the doubleheader against Cincinnati in Anaheim there in the second inning with arm fatigue. And he ended that outing, his first outing in 2 weeks, just 26 pitches. We later learned that Ohtani has been diagnosed with a torn ligament in his elbow, the UCL, which often leads to TJ, as in Tommy John surgery. So let us discuss, where is the worry-o-meter for Shohei Ohtani? Now, the Maller worry-o-meter, 1 to 10, with 10 being needing anxiety meds. The Shohei Ohtani Maller worry-o-meter is at a 9.0. 9.0. That is boiling over. That is throwing things. That is pounding your fist into the wall. It's all of those things. So I've got emoji, confessional booth, and cotton candy. And we will combine all of these things together, and we are going to make a brand spanking new cadaver ligament, which now if you've already done Tommy John, which Ohtani has, do they take a cadaver ligament? Is Ferg Cat, one of our listeners, willing to donate his ligaments to Ohtani if he signs with the Angels? I don't know. All right, so we're going to combine all these things. So first of all, though, Shohei Ohtani is the creme de la creme of the baseball world. It goes without saying, right? If you paid any attention, he's the central actor in the upcoming dramatic off-season event here, the free agency shopping period. It's all about Showtime. However, that has now changed. And at the very minimum, Ohtani has lost $300 million if he needs Tommy John surgery, right off the top. Because that's typically a 1.5 to a 2-year injury before you fully get back. And Ohtani, at this point, we don't know the whole story, but we know a lot. And in my experience over the years from doing this job is when people in baseball say, we're not sure how bad it is, we want to get some more tests done and all that, it's horrific. It's horrible. It's the worst of the worst. So Ohtani's got this flashing emoji, the red flag emoji, around him right now because he is simultaneously the front runner for the American League MVP. And now he is a gigantic question mark going forward as the unicorn. Is this the end of Ohtani as a pitcher, the second Tommy John operation? They said he was suffering from arm fatigue. And now, as we mentioned, if you're just late to the party here, Ohtani's been diagnosed with a UCL tear. Then if you go to WebMD or you pay attention to any of the medical websites, they say that the often result of that for a professional athlete is Tommy John surgery. So if that's the case, Ohtani goes from $700 million to $600 million. But what if I told you that this is a blessing in disguise for the Angels. Say what? Let me explain. So if Ohtani did go from like $600 million to maybe $300 million, which is still a ton of money, wouldn't you be better off just taking a one-year deal, signing with the Angels for another season, just play as a designated hitter, which apparently he's still going to try to do. He's going to try to play as a DH, and then re-enter the market a year from now. Or maybe you sign a 2-year deal with the Angels for a good amount of money, as much as Artie Moreno can scrape together. I know he likes to pinch pennies, as do I. And then you go back at it. But Ohtani's velocity had been going down. He had averaged, his heater had averaged about 97 miles an hour, and his fastball in the game, we found out he was pitching with a bum elbow, was about 91 miles an hour to 94. So he lost about 3 miles minimum on his fastball. So keep an eye on this story here. And he's going to be shut down for the rest of the year. But people are going to now do he should have not played. Once the Angels were eliminated, he should have not played. Those people, you know those people are? We have a word for those people. Ding-dongs. They're ding-dongs. They're Mama Lukes. Out of an abundance of caution. Yeah. Don't leave your freaking house, you losers. Okay. Ohtani played. He's a baseball player. He's making a lot of money this year. He played. Sometimes you win. Sometimes you lose. He got hurt. He's still going to make a ton of money if he wants. He just won't make as much money. I think the Ohtani family, it's like 7 generations of the Ohtani family down the line will be upset. But until then, I think he's okay. Now, secondly, let's go to the Bronx. We'll move away from the Angels because on the field, Aaron Judge played home run derby. Hit 3 home runs. The Yankees snapped a 9-game losing streak. So, unfortunately, we did not get that 10-game losing streak. The longest, though, futility for the Bronx Bombers since the early 80s, over 40 years. But we got a story. The story here is Brian Cashman, who faced the music, the Fourth Estate there, as he sat in the dunk tank, and the circus came through there. They were trying to dunk Brian Cashman. Cashman spoke in a news conference to the assembled Yankee media there, and he said all kinds of wild things. He said the season's been a disaster, talked about being embarrassed. Let's give you a little taste here. We got some highlights of this news conference. Here is Brian Cashman, the longest tenured general manager in professional baseball with the New York Yankees. Here is Brian Cashman commenting on what a hot mess this season has been for the Pinstripers. Take a listen.
If there's anybody in this planet that felt that the New York Yankees, as constructed, leaving spring training, entering spring training or leaving spring training, wasn't a playoff contending team, and I would say anybody in our roster, anybody on an opposing roster, or anybody in this room in the media, I doubt there's anybody that predicted that we were not a playoff team, and I certainly didn't. But at the same time, it happens, and a lot of it's happened, and because of that, there's a mess on our hands.
There's one person I know that predicted the demise of the New York Yankees, and that's a guy named Angry Bill. So maybe the Yankees should hire Angry Bill, a guy that calls this show, as an advisor to the Yankees.
It's a mess.
I've seen that slogan on bumper stickers back in the day. Blank happens. S-word happens. Here's more from Brian Cashman. Here's Brian Cashman saying that the Yankees are not happy. They are not happy, and the players are not trying to suck. Take a listen.
I'm not here to make my case of why we should or we shouldn't. That's somebody else's decision that's above me. But I can tell you we're really obviously disappointed, frustrated, angered, and that's representative from every aspect of this franchise from top to bottom. So, and that includes our players too. They care, they're fighting. I know it doesn't look like that, but I would say if you try to put yourself in their position, I don't think anybody wants to go out in front of 40,000 people and lay an egg. Whether it's individually or collectively as a team, because then what comes with that is pretty horrific. And so, the job is to find.
Yeah. All right. So that was a weird ending there. But that's Brian Cashman there, and he said they're trying. It doesn't look like it, but yeah. That's here's one more. Yeah, if you're like some kind of bird or something, you're allowed to lay an egg. But other than that, not so good. Or a snake or something like that. Anyway, here is one more. Here's Brian Cashman pointing out that this Yankee team now has essentially opened up Pandora's box. Take a listen.
By doing it the other way, and we've gone south, we've invited a lot of scrutiny, a lot of questions. Some of them will be legitimate. Some of them will be But we got to be professional and deal with all of it and try to sift through what's real and what's fake.
Yeah, okay. Good luck. So how does Brian Cashman's blunt assessment of the 2023 Yankees season change the story? The word is necessary. It was a necessary trip to the confessional booth. Some places you can sugarcoat it and people are like cheerleaders for the team. But New York's not one of those places. No sugarcoating. Admitting the problem is the first step to solving it, but does not guarantee that you're going to be able to fix the problem. You can't solve a problem by pretending there is no problem, but at the same time, getting it corrected is a whole different animal. Now, Brian Cashman is surrounded by what we call gummy clusters of nerds. By the way, not a bad candy, a gummy cluster of nerds. But you mix in, my advice, mix in a little old school. The Yankees, if you look at the scales of baseball, the scales are leaning way too much to the analytics and not enough to feel of the game and have a hunch, bet a bunch. All right, final thought. Let's go to the Athletics. Their owner, John Fisher, granted an interview to the Las Vegas Review-Journal. This guy's a recluse, John Fisher. Several of our friends in the Bay Area passed this story on to me, demanding that we give it a mention, so we will. So John Fisher, in this story, he was on the offensive, and he denied a bunch of allegations that have been made about him, and he attacked the A's fans in Oakland. Among them, he said, despite many rhythmic chants, "Sell the team! Sell the team!" He's not selling the team. And he's not, this is the part where his nose grew like Pinocchio. He said he's not intentionally tanking the team's on-field performance. He insists that the Athletics' payroll, which is the lowest in professional baseball at the big league level, is just a function of club revenue. And here's where his nose grows all the way to the moon. He said nothing could be further from the truth. This is John Fisher, the owner of the Athletics. The A's this year, this is what John Fisher said. He said the A's will lose $40 million with a $60 million payroll, and the losses that the ownership has had here with this team over the last several years have been very significant. He claimed they lost over $100 million the previous year. So how would you classify John Fisher's comments about the Athletics' financials? So this is what's known as fiction. It is fluffy cotton candy is what it is. It's myth-making. It's bullshoy is what it is. It's the myth-making machine cranked up. And good job by the Las Vegas Review-Journal. Was this a PR piece? Was this a press release by John Fisher? Way to ask the hard questions. I will bet my last dollar, which, by the way, I'm getting close to, my last dollar, the Athletics are not going to lose $40 million this year. They did not lose $100 million in a previous year. I'm going to go out on a limb here, put my neck out, that is horse crap. Now, what is my evidence? My evidence is pro sports teams I'm talking about not these, like the WNBA, I'm sure they lose money, but I'm talking about the big-time sports leagues. The blue blood teams, the legacy sports leagues, have a license to print money. They always sell for more, never for less. Can you tell me another business that always sells for more, never less? Like you buy a house, you don't know if the house is going to be worth more money. You hope it is, but maybe it won't. It might go down when you have to get rid of it. But in sports, you buy this. There's no other business you can buy, and you're guaranteed you're going to sell it for more than you paid for it, and you're going to make amazing amounts of money. It's all built in.